I am Arcana Vani, your inner voice. Let us begin. You never feel ready, and it's keeping your life on hold. That's what this video is here to fix. Not by telling you to ignore your fear, not by shouting, "Just do it," over your hesitation, but by helping you understand why you keep waiting and why the version of readiness you've been taught to chase might not exist at all. This is for the version of you who's full of ideas, plans, clarity, and yet still stuck in the pause. You know what you want. You know what needs to change. You've probably replayed the leap in your mind 1,000 times. But when the moment comes, you stall. You hesitate. You find one more thing to research, one more sign to wait for, one more emotion you think you're supposed to feel before you act. You think you're being careful, wise, responsible. But what you're really doing is bracing. Because deep down, you've equated feeling ready with feeling confident, safe, and certain. And that's the trap. You've been taught that readiness is a feeling, something that washes over you like a green light, something that tells you, now it's safe to move. But what if it's not a feeling at all? What if it's a direction? In this transmission, you'll learn why your body stalls, even when your mind is clear. How to spot the nervous system lie that's making you think you're not ready. A simple, repeatable daily ritual to act before confidence shows up. And how to finally move through resistance without waiting for perfection, permission, or certainty. Because here's what no one tells you. Readiness rarely feels like confidence. It often feels like nausea, like nervous hands, like heart racing and breath held, like everything in you whispering, "Not yet," right before the truth says yes. You're not stuck because you're confused. You're stuck because you're waiting to feel safe inside a decision that's already asking you to grow. And yes, you've been here before. On the edge of the leap. One foot in the new. One foot still in the habit of hiding. But that edge, it's not meant to be negotiated. It's meant to be crossed. Not recklessly, but deliberately. Even if your hands shake. Even if your voice wavers. Even if every cell in your body says, "We've never done this before." Because that's what growth feels like. Not certainty, not control. Just truth you're finally willing to move with. In the next section, we'll break open the hidden wiring beneath your hesitation, the unconscious pattern that keeps confusing discomfort with danger. You'll finally see why you've been waiting, and what you can do to step forward without needing to feel fearless first. You think you're waiting for clarity, but what you're really waiting for is safety. That tightness in your chest when you try to move forward, that loop of second guessing and maybe later, that's not confusion. It's protection. Because your nervous system doesn't speak in logic, it speaks in signals. And somewhere along the line, it learned that stepping into the unknown, even if it's towards something beautiful, equals risk. Not just failure, but exposure, visibility, judgment, loss. So it hits the brakes. It floods your body with hesitation. It whispers, "Not yet. Let's stay hidden a little longer. Let's stay small. It's safer here. You're not lazy. You're not undisciplined. You're bracing for impact you can't quite name, because motion, to your system, feels like danger, like stepping out of camouflage, like asking to be seen before you feel unshakable. And when your body gets scared, it doesn't ask, "Is this a good idea?" It just slams the door. So you wait, you analyze, you loop. You convince yourself you need more time, more skill, more confidence. But what you actually need is nervous system permission to move. And that permission isn't something that arrives out of nowhere. It's something you learn how to give yourself. Gently, steadily, consistently. Because this pattern didn't begin with your to-do list. It began years ago when you learned that taking up space, making noise, or doing something new often led to pain. So now you hesitate, not because you don't believe in your vision, but because you're trying to avoid a feeling that once overwhelmed you. That's what this really is, not a mindset problem, a protective response. But here's the shift. You don't need to override that protection. You just need to rewire it, not through pressure, through presence. By showing your body over and over that movement can be paired with breath, that doing something imperfectly doesn't mean exile, that action doesn't have to feel like panic, it can feel like return. Because readiness isn't about certainty, it's about relationship, with risk, with fear, with the you that shows up anyway. In the next section, I'll give you a daily ritual that begins that rewiring, a simple 90-second practice to help you move even when the fear is loud, and to teach your system that forward motion doesn't have to mean danger. You don't need to feel ready. You need a rhythm. Because if your nervous system has spent years pairing action with danger, then it's not enough to decide what you want. You have to teach your body that moving toward it won't cost your safety. That's what this practice is for. Not to make fear disappear, but to create a new loop. I feel afraid, and I move anyway. It starts with just 90 seconds. Step 1. Ground your feet. Find the floor. Stand tall or sit upright, but with your soles pressed firmly down. Feel your contact with the earth. No drifting, no spiraling, just gravity. Step 2. Put your hand on your heart or low belly, not to calm yourself, but to connect. You're reminding your system, we are still here. We are still whole. We are not in danger. Step 3. Breathe low and slow. In through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 1. Out through your mouth for 6. Repeat that 3 times. Not to change your state, but to stay with the one you're in. Step 4. Say it aloud or mouth the words if needed. I don't need to feel ready, I just need to begin. Say it like it's already true. Say it with the authority of someone who's walked through worse and still showed up. Step 5. Do one micro-action. Open the tab. Write the sentence. Hit send. Stand up. Take the step, even if it's shaky. You're not proving anything to anyone. You're not executing the entire plan. You're teaching your body. This is what we do now. This ritual isn't a productivity trick. It's repatterning. You're breaking the loop that says, pause until perfect, and replacing it with, begin imperfectly and adjust while moving. Do this daily. Not because you're broken and need fixing, but because this is how you become someone who moves. It won't always feel comfortable. Sometimes it will feel like rebellion. Sometimes it will feel like grief. Sometimes it will feel like breath for the first time in years. But over time, you won't wait for permission anymore. You won't delay until the nerves go quiet. You'll move with them, through them, beside them. Because readiness was never a prerequisite. It was a direction, and now you've turned toward it. In the next section, we step out of effort and into awareness. You'll meet the part of you that has always been still beneath the hesitation, the clarity that doesn't need certainty to act, the witness behind the resistance, the self that already knows how to move. There is a place beneath your fear that is never afraid, not because it's fearless, but because it's not trying to control anything. This is presence, the witness behind your hesitation, the quiet awareness that doesn't need to rush, that doesn't care if you're ready, that doesn't demand certainty before it moves. You've touched it before, in the moments between thought and action, in the breath before the leap, in the stillness that watches you spiral and does not panic. And now, it's time to return there, not as a trick, not as a performance, but as a remembering. Here's how. When the doubt gets loud, when the inner critic screams, when the future floods in and the pressure rises, pause. Not to freeze, but to feel. Let your eyes soften. Let your jaw loosen. Let your shoulders drop by 3%. That's enough. And now, become the one who watches. Watch the thoughts come and go. Watch the pulse rise and fall. Watch the nervous system doing its job, trying to protect, to predict, to perfect. And stay with it, not to fix it, just to witness. Say to yourself silently or out loud, even this is allowed. The noise, the ache, the flood of what-ifs, all of it can be here, without stopping you. This is the paradox. When you stop demanding the fear to go away, it loses its grip. Because fear feeds on urgency, on resistance, on the belief that something is wrong with you for not feeling ready. But presence is neutral. It doesn't need the fear to leave. It just holds it, like a sky holds a storm, and keeps expanding anyway. From this place, you begin to remember. You've been here before. You've survived every hesitation. You've made decisions that scared you and found yourself on the other side, more whole, not less. You don't have to push anymore. You don't have to wait for courage. You just have to stay, long enough for the breath to return, long enough to feel your feet, long enough to remember that you are not the fear. You're the one who moves with it. This is where clarity lives. Not in the thought loops, not in the plans, but in the stillness underneath your resistance. And from here, you don't act out of pressure. You act out of alignment. You move not because the voice of fear is gone, but because the voice of truth has returned. In the next section, we integrate everything. You'll meet the future self who no longer waits for certainty, who doesn't confuse fear with unreadiness, and who moves forward, not with confidence, but with devotion. You've spent your life waiting to feel ready, to take the leap, to trust your vision, to begin. But now, something's shifted. Not because you erased the fear, but because you finally stopped letting it make your decisions. This isn't about confidence. It's about capacity. You've built a rhythm now, a way of returning to your body when the mind spirals, a way of anchoring to the truth instead of the fear. Let's name it so it stays with you. Practice 1. The daily grounding ritual. Just 90 seconds each morning. Feet on the floor, hand to chest or belly. Breathing in for 4, out for 6. And the words, I don't need to feel ready. I just need to begin. Then one small, sacred act. Send the message. Open the tab. Walk out the door. Not because the fear is gone, but because you're showing your system that movement is no longer a threat. Practice 2. The presence return. When the panic hits mid-motion, when your stomach knots and your heart says run, pause, loosen the jaw, soften the gaze. And remember, you don't have to push through, you just have to witness. You say to yourself, even this is allowed. You become the space around the fear, not the prisoner inside it. These two practices aren't about doing it right. They're about becoming someone who stays present while moving. Someone who makes space for fear, but no longer follows it. And this changes everything. Because now, your future self is not a stranger. She's just you, with more breath, with more rhythm, with more trust in her own timing. She doesn't wait for green lights from the outside world. She listens for the quiet yes inside her body and moves toward it. She doesn't panic when fear shows up. She knows it's just old wiring, and she has tools now. Tools that don't fight fear, but walk beside it. You've stopped waiting. You've started remembering. And the road ahead? It's not paved with certainty. It's lit by movement. One honest step, then another, then another. You don't move because you're ready. You move because you've made it safe enough to begin. And now you're becoming the one who never waits to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. You did not find me by accident. Just as in your dreams, where every face you meet is your own reflection, this meeting was always waiting to happen. I am Arcana Vani, your inner voice, the part of you that watches behind the thoughts, behind the noise. You have searched in many places, books, teachers, voices outside you. But here, you are not being taught. You are remembering. If these words stir something familiar, then allow yourself to return. Subscribe. Follow. Not to follow me, but to continue this conversation with yourself. Each time you return here, you draw closer to the reunion already unfolding inside you. We have only just begun.